Awesome. Well, thank you guys for having me. Um, I was given the assignment, come here and talk about sort of lessons learned and so on, and don't talk too much about your company. It's really about what you learned. And so I was thinking about that. What can I talk about? What can I, give some wisdom on, I guess, in this setting? And I decided I should talk a lot about strategy, because strategy is so important in building a business. Knowing what you're doing, thinking strategically. If I think back to like my background, I started my career at BCG, very much focused on strategy, right? Strategy consulting. Lots of frameworks, lots of ways to think about interesting problems. And so I did about 5-6 years there, and I learned from the best. I thought I knew everything there was to know about strategy and how to think about strategy. And so I thought I was ready to go out and start building my own businesses. And so I left BCG and started my own business. And pretty quickly I learned that I did learn a lot about strategy, but there was the most critical thing that no one ever taught me, which is everyone has a strategic plan until they get punched in the face. And the reality of building businesses and starting startups is you will get punched in the face lots and lots of times. I got punched in the face a few times in my first business. Glutton for punishment, after selling that, decided to start my second. Punched in my face multiple times. Ended up selling that business. And I was supposed to take some time off, but really got excited about the opportunity to build Carbon 6. And as you said, that was sort of 2021 e-commerce boom. And so, being a glutton for punishment, decided to start Carbon 6. And lo and behold, got punched in the face yet again. So taking a step back, when we started Carbon 6, my co-founders and I knew very, very little about e-commerce and even less about Amazon. What we did know was there are a lot of sellers on Amazon. There's about 2 million businesses that sell on Amazon on any given day. There's about $400 billion of GMV flowing through Amazon. Just to put it in context, that's about 2.5, 3 times the size of the entirety of Shopify, just on sort of Amazon's 3P. But if you're an Amazon seller, if you have any sort of size, it's actually a pretty difficult job. You're spending every day, you're thinking about how to build your business. You're maximizing reviews. You have to figure out what keywords to use on your listing. You got to manage pricing. You got to manage inventory, manage P&L, brand ads. There's a lot of things going on. And so it gets really difficult to run your business. In Shopify, they have something called the App Store. And you download all these different apps to help you with different things in your business, and you connect it to your Shopify core, and you sort of grow your business. Amazon actually has nothing like that. It's all third-party software that's been built separately. What we found was supporting that 2 million seller ecosystem, that $400 billion GMV ecosystem. There were lots of these small products, these software tools, that these sellers were using to run their business. A software tool for reviews, one for pricing, one for inventory, and so on. They're all separate. They don't connect to each other. They don't connect to a core. And so you're like downloading CSV from one and putting it into the other, and this is how you run, in many cases, multi-million dollar businesses, in some cases, billion-dollar businesses. And so we thought we had a great idea. Ecosystem like this will consolidate. There's no big players out there. So why not us? We could totally do it. And hey, why build from scratch? There's all these software out there. We could probably just buy a bunch of them, start putting them together, and raise more money, put them together, and keep going. And we thought it was a fantastic idea. And I think my first conversation with my co-founder was like March of 2021. In April of 2021, we incorporated. In May of 2021, we bought our first 2 businesses. And over the next 6 months, we bought like 8. And over the next 6 months, we bought a whole bunch more. And you have to remember, this is like the e-commerce boom, right? This is 2021. You literally put a bunch of logos on the slides to give me money to buy these. So people will give you money. You buy them. And you say, hey, I bought these. And look at these ones I want to buy. Give us more money. And so people give us more money. And so that's sort of how we grew. interestingly enough. And so, over the first 12, 18 months, we bought a bunch of business. I think like 12, 14, 18 business. I've literally lost count. And, we were growing pretty well. We were, obviously just growing by buying, not actually growing. We grew to over, 10 million in ARR over sort of 12 to 14 months. I'm pretty sure you guys can see where this is going. Then 2022 happened, which was the punch in our face. Late 2022, as I said, we had bought a bunch of businesses. Our entire business is about, remember, raising money, buying businesses, raising money, buying businesses, trying to be the next Constellation Software, right? And so yeah, we're about like a little bit north of 10 million in ARR. We're like burning like cash like crazy. We have a certain amount of money in the bank account. Every month it's dropping. We have, we bought these businesses. There's usually holdbacks and second payments and earn-out payments. We see that sort of down the line. And guess what? No one's going to give us money. They were like, what? You want to just buy businesses at 2x multiples and raise at like 10x, 20x? That doesn't make sense anymore. So we had to figure out who we were. Following Jill's story, who knew two people here would be talking about pivots? So we had to figure out what our strategy was. So we had to figure out a new strategy. Step one, no longer acquisition focused. I mean, that's primarily because we couldn't raise money. There's no like really strategic insight in that. So like no acquisition focused. What was the actually really interesting strategic change though was this reorganizing the entire company around customer centricity. What that meant was, before we had, bought all these businesses and we were like, okay, how is business A doing versus business B doing versus business C doing? How are they growing? What's their retention? All of that. We did a complete shift to looking at, hey, there's customer A. How many of our products are they using? How can we get them to use more of our products? There's customer B. They're using these other products. How can we get them to use more of ours? How do we connect these things together? How do we cross-sell? How do we upsell? How do we make sure that we are delivering more value to the customer? Because at the end of the day, that's how you grow. And then the third, we knew we had to get to profitability through growth and efficiency. Again, similar to the first one, like no one's going to give us money. So we wanted to get in charge of our own destiny and reorganize, grow, but do that in a profitable way. So over the last sort of 18 months, this is the strategy we've been executing on. No acquisitions since early 2023. We've consolidated all the organizations, and that was really, really painful, and we can talk about that a little bit. You think about, bought all these businesses, they came with their teams. We essentially had to replace and change out 80% of our company. And we ended up hiring folks into Carbon 6, and now we're about 140 people, most of them here in Toronto. Really focused on sort of the central Carbon 6, consolidated sales team, consolidated marketing, engineering, and so on. And during that time, without any acquisitions, we actually more than quadrupled our revenue to more than 50 million in ARR, just growing organically. By focusing on sort of the right things that could drive value to our customers and focusing on customer centricity. So what's next? We are continuing to grow really, really rapidly. We're continuing to hire. There's a few members from our team here. Please talk to them. And we see lots of growth in the future and lots of opportunity. But having been through this for a number of times, I know there's probably a few more punches to the face left as we grow. So the single lesson I guess I have through this whole talk, it's not too different from Jill's actually, is strategy is important, but really the only strategy that matters is flexibility. Because you will get punched in the face many, many times. Step one is the resilience to getting back up. But really then what drives you forward is having the courage to know that, hey, everything I thought about the world and how I was going to build this company is probably wrong. And I need to really think about what I need to do to get to the next level and execute on that. Thank you.
Open for questions. And I guess as Jason gets on this hoverboard, I'll throw out the first one here too. How did you manage like your board of investors when everyone else was imploding and you said we're no longer doing acquisitions when that was your primary strategy? Because that seems like a big change in strategy, and the market was not nice back then.
I think it's easy to say you're not doing acquisitions if you have no money for acquisitions. So that part was easy. What you're gonna do next, I think that you're correct. That is a tough conversation. Like, there's lots of ways we could have gone. We could have said, hey, let's sell off a few assets and focus on a couple of them. Let's do something else. Let's go into shop. Like, who knows? There's lots of different strategies. A big part of that is, we still, think about the vision of that. What we wanted to do was build value for our sort of end customer, the Amazon seller, by sort of doing lots of different jobs for them. It was more a matter of, okay, how do we reorient what we're doing, reorient our team to drive towards that without spending so much money on acquisitions? Not an easy conversation. Lots of difficult board meetings. But again, if you've built companies a few times, then the other thing that happens when you get punched in the face a long time is your face hardens, so you're okay.
Hello. Thank you for your story. That's incredibly interesting. I'm curious. Amazon is its own ecosystem, just like YouTube, or those are two big ones. I'm curious, what is your thinking or strategy if or when Amazon comes up with an AI product which to compete with yours, or are you seeking to be purchased by Amazon?
Yeah. So one of the benefits of sort of being one of the few companies that are doing it is we're actually very close with Amazon. Our like half our team's actually in Seattle right now, and an Amazon conference, talking to Amazon, talking about their product roadmap, how we build alongside them, etc. But when you are asking about what if Amazon builds this product, the interesting thing is there's all these different jobs to be done. There's not going to be a single solution that Amazon puts out that does all of them. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, I think we are working on our sort of own AI tools as well, and so is everybody. I think the reality is, if you think about being a successful Amazon seller, the sellers that we focused on are almost all omni-channel. Amazon will only have data or focus on data on sort of just selling on Amazon. As we start looking at, some of our biggest products is how do you advertise on Google to drive traffic to Amazon? How do you optimize your listing between Amazon and Walmart? So as you start thinking about like all these different solutions, that's what sort of broadens the solution set you have to go into. The second thing, if you think about Amazon and who they focus on, you do your engineering and your product development investments focused on who your customer is. Amazon's customer is us, who's buying. So everything they're doing, they launched Rufus, they launched an AI advertising product. All of those investments are focused on how to get the consumers to buy more and more easily. As they do that, they solve some challenges for sellers, but actually create new ones. And so that actually always creates more opportunity for us.
I'm curious, with all the software components that you had acquired, how much of the change in focus towards customer centricity required like technical solutions versus cultural shifts, and how those kind of supported each other as you kind of brought that software together for the customers?
Yeah, it's both, and it's sort of done in phases, right? If you there's a big culture shift on sort of how we look at it. Part of that was, all the data and metrics we would look at changed from how is each product doing to how we're doing as a company from a customer level and who our top customers are and what products they're using. From an organizational level, we had sort of each product had its own team. Then we consolidated the marketing team, consolidated the sales team, consolidated the customer success team, consolidated the engineering team, product team, and that work's been going on for the last 18 months. On the technology side, the George on our team can probably tell you better, but we have sort of some teams that focus on the products, but a big part of our engineering team is actually on the platform, rolling out things like single sign-on, single authentication, an unified nav bar across the top of all of our products, and unified user management system, unified billing system. Building all of those central the platform technology is probably the biggest part of our R&D expense.
Why the name Carbon 6?
So there's actually a funny story about this one. So the Carbon 6 name was created by the wife of my co-founder. He always looked to her to sort of name businesses. And interestingly enough, like I told you, March, in April, we incorporated, bought our first business in May. Obviously, in April, we were already talking to this business to buy them. They're asking, oh, who's going to buy? We're preparing paperwork. We don't have a company name. So we're like, okay, we need a company name quickly. And she comes up with Carbon 6. The Amazon rainforest is the world's largest store of carbon, holds about 6% of the world's carbon, sixth element. So we're all right, Carbon 6. Immediately, then we find out, okay, there's a different company in Carbon 6 with rings. Every other person we talk to, Carbon 6, oh, you must be in clean tech. No, it's e-commerce software. And then about 8 months later, we actually go to an Amazon conference, and we find out the biggest company in that space at that time was a company called Helium 10. And so we were like, what are the chances that not copying them, we also chose a name that's an element and a number? In fact, they definitely thought we copied their name and they hated us and everything. We almost changed the name, but by that point, we had a number of people in the company and they liked the name and they wanted us to keep it, and so we've kept it.
On that note, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Can I get a round of applause?